Hi, my name is Denise Horner and I'm here to critically reflect on an experience I had at my most recent placement, which was for EDFX348. So the school that I went to was Footscray City College. This school is a public co-ed school, and the particular experience that I'll critically reflect on was a Year 7 physical education class that I took. So this class, the students were required to walk down to the venue since we were playing volleyball. And some background information on that class: it was their second lesson doing volleyball, and it was the first time that I met all of the students. And not only that, but I also had a staff member from ACU come down to watch me and provide feedback. So I'll talk about that later on. So like I said, we had to walk down to the class. This was about a 10-minute walk, so this added to the time that I had to prepare my lesson because we needed to walk to and from the class. It's really important that, especially in a physical education setting, that the way that I organise the physical environment caters for all the students in the classroom so that no one is feeling left out and no one is at any disadvantage. So this is particularly important for my experience because I had one student who had a physical disability. Interestingly enough, this wasn't told to me prior to me taking the class, but that's okay because I still was able to manage it fine. It's really important with any student that has any learning need, any learning difficulties, any disabilities of whatever sort, that the teacher addresses that in their own way, but doesn't make a big statement in front of the rest of the class, especially at such a young age of Year 7. The last thing that student would want is to be tormented in front of everyone else and, pointed out for being different. So the way that I managed that was, once I'd noticed the physical disability, I kept an eye on this student a little bit more than everyone else just to make sure that they were okay with grasping the concepts of volleyball. Because, as I said, this is only their second lesson, so I really needed to reteach a lot of the actions that they need to perform so they can accurately and competently hit the ball. So when talking about the physical environment, this is in relation to Smith and their colleagues' findings in 2011. And not only this, but also the fact that also by Smith, the fact that the way you structure the physical environment is going to affect the learning experiences that you can offer to your students. So if I don't structure the environment appropriately, I can only offer so much, and the students will not be getting maximum participation or maximum learning and understanding out of the lesson. As an education provider, I'm required by law to make reasonable adjustments to allow for students with disabilities to be educated on the same basis. So that means that I can't simply notice that someone has a disability and then just tell them to sit out. I need to include them, involve them in the game, in the activity, in the class, throughout the whole class. That may mean that modifications are necessary, but as long as they're still involved and it's an inclusive and safe environment, that is a good thing. Physical education is a general capability of the Australian curriculum, as we know from ACARA. So it's really important that students know how to not so much be physically active, but actually understand their bodies and their movement patterns, how to take on feedback, how to accurately and competently perform certain tasks to get an end product. So with my class, it was volleyball, and what I did after introducing myself, because we just met, I retaught the concepts of how to hit the ball. And it's really important with PE that you have the ability to explain something, the one task, in multiple ways, because different students are going to have different ways of understanding, similar to how you target learning needs, if they're visual, if they're kinesthetic, etc. So for this, according to Killen 2016, it's important to find multiple ways to explain the same task in a physical education setting. So what I did was, when I explained how to set a ball, I obviously physically demonstrated and I verbally explained at the same time. as well as providing some analogies so that different students would understand what I was talking about. So whether I said hands like a diamond, or high 10, or butterfly hands, one of these was a way for students to understand the action. This idea revolves around Vygotsky's scaffolding, because I'm scaffolding their knowledge. So because it was their second class, I was going off what limited knowledge they had beforehand, and because of this, they were still at the stage where they're in the zone of proximal development. So they are able to perform tasks with the assistance of the teacher, with the guidance of myself. That's from Vygotsky, 1978. I found that the feedback I got from my mentor and from the staff member at ACU was really positive and really beneficial to my learning and my development as a teacher. They were really impressed with how I controlled the class, how I was able to get them listening throughout the whole lesson, and then how I walked around and ensured that everyone was on track. Because obviously in a physical education setting, a practical class, this can be a little bit more complex than just if it was in a classroom. But then there's also the benefit that the kids don't have their devices on them, so it's easier to walk around. I really enjoyed this experience.